At the end of year awards, my boss joked loudly, if there were a trophy for most likely to cry in the bathroom, she'd win it hands down. The whole room erupted in laughter as I faked a smile. I waited until after the applause died to hand my letter of resignation to the CEO, along with a folder full of HR violations that made sure my exit would be the least of their problems. Let me tell you how my boss humiliated me in front of the entire company, and how I destroyed his career without yelling or even raising my voice. I worked at a tech company in Pittsburgh for almost 5 years. We were small when I started, like under 50 employees. We grew fast, picked up a bunch of contracts, and before long, we were renting out the whole top floor of a downtown office building. That kind of fast growth can be exciting, but it also means a lot of people get promoted just for sticking around. That's what happened with Dale Rooker. Dale was a senior project manager when I joined. He wasn't my boss then. He was just the loud guy in the back of meetings who always had some funny comment. He laughed at his own jokes louder than anyone else. He liked to call himself the culture guy, even though he mostly just drank during lunch and told stories about himself. People liked him enough back then. A couple years in, our original manager left for a startup, and Dale got promoted. That's when things went downhill. He didn't like being questioned. Didn't like follow-up emails. Didn't like when anyone had a better idea than him. And he really didn't like me. I don't know what it was at first. Maybe because I had a good relationship with our lead client. Maybe because I worked well with the dev team and wasn't afraid to say when something didn't make sense. I wasn't rude. I wasn't trying to step on his toes. But Dale was the kind of guy who needed to be the smartest in the room. He didn't like being corrected, even gently. So it started with little things. He stopped including me in meetings I used to be part of. He gave my project updates to someone else because I seemed stressed. He made jokes during team stand-ups like, "Let's keep it simple today," or Tara's head might explode. People laughed. I forced a smile. Then he started calling me Tier A. I didn't get it at first. Then one day he said it again in front of our team and added, "Because she cries at everything." I had only cried once at work, and it was during a private one-on-one with him after he told me my promotion was being delayed. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I just got quiet and tears came out. I tried to pull myself together, but he never let it go. From then on, every time I pushed back in a meeting, he'd say something like, "Let's not get emotional," or "We can't all have soft hearts like Tara." Always with a grin. Always just enough deniability. I went to HR. I filed a complaint. I had dates, examples, and even emails. I gave him a copy of a message he accidentally sent to the wrong group chat where he called me a walking therapy bill. They said they'd look into it. Nothing changed. In fact, things got worse. After my complaint, he stopped talking to me directly. He started routing everything through another coworker. He assigned me to support roles on projects I used to lead. My workload didn't shrink, but my authority did. Then came the company awards night. Every December, we rent out a banquet room. Fancy dinner, speeches, fake trophies. It's mostly for fun, but it's also when promotions get announced and bonuses get handed out. I didn't expect much. I'd already made up my mind to leave. I had an offer from another company. I'd even written my resignation letter. But I went because I didn't want to look bitter. I figured I'd eat, clap, say thanks, and leave quietly. But then Dale took the mic. He gave a speech. Talked about teamwork. Mentioned a few names. Then he said, and finally, if there were a trophy for most likely to cry in the bathroom, she'd win it hands down. People laughed. Not everyone. But enough. And they all looked at me. That was my moment. When the applause died down, I stood up. I walked across the room, all the way to the front table where our CEO, Donna, was sitting. I handed her a folder and a letter. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "You'll want to read that before Monday." And I walked out. That folder I gave Donna? It wasn't just a few emails. It was everything. I spent 2 months collecting proof. I kept a journal of every comment Dale made. I printed out emails, messages, Slack convos. I even had a few voice memos, recorded during meetings, where you could hear Dale mocking people. Not just me. Other women, too. Including one intern he called hot but slow during a lunch meeting. I found 2 other coworkers, Tina from QA and Jess from marketing, who agreed to write statements. Both had their own stories about Dale. Tina had once told HR Dale asked if she was pregnant or just bloated after she came back from lunch. Jess said Dale told her she was too pretty to be in analytics. And I had all of it, in that folder. What I didn't expect was what happened next. The following Monday, I get a call from Donna. I don't pick up. Then I get an email from HR, different tone now. They take my allegations seriously and appreciate my bravery. Too late. By Tuesday, people from the office started texting me. Dale didn't show up. A third-party investigation was launched. People started talking. Quiet at first, then louder. Turns out I wasn't the only one with a folder. Jess had gone to the press. Not a big site, but local tech media. They ran a story about toxic culture at a rising Pittsburgh startup. No names at first, but the comments section lit up. More ex-employees started coming forward. And then someone leaked Dale's "most likely to cry" line. It got quoted. Clipped. Spread online. Within 48 hours, the CEO was forced to make a statement. But the real twist came later that week, when one of the company's biggest clients pulled out of their contract. Said they don't tolerate sexism in leadership. That's when things really started to fall apart. The news hit the office like a bomb. By Thursday, 3 more clients froze their accounts. I knew this because one of my old teammates, Sam, from the dev side, texted me updates. He wasn't exactly a fan of Dale either, and when all this broke out, he said, "It's like someone finally turned on the lights and saw all the cockroaches." Dale still hadn't made a public statement. That was typical. He probably thought he could wait it out or blame it all on a misunderstanding. But things kept getting worse. The company announced an emergency restructuring. That was PR code for, "We're bleeding money, and this might be the end." Then came the real kicker. One of the former interns, her name was Alyssa, posted a TikTok. I didn't expect much at first, but her video went viral. She shared her story about Dale asking her to come to off-site meetings at bars. She was only 22 at the time. Said Dale made her uncomfortable, but when she told HR, they said to be careful about ruining someone's career with a vibe. Her post got over 1 million views in 2 days. Comments poured in. And now it wasn't just local press. National outlets picked it up. Some even tied it to the broader issues in tech companies mishandling harassment. I stayed quiet. I didn't make any public posts. I didn't want attention, I just wanted to know Dale wouldn't be able to charm or laugh his way out of this. But then something happened I didn't expect. Donna, the CEO, showed up at my door. No call, no email. Just knocked on my apartment door one morning, holding a coffee in one hand and an envelope in the other. I stood there in sweats, shocked. She said, "I owe you an apology." I let her in. We sat at my kitchen table. She told me Dale had been suspended. HR was being restructured, and they were bringing in outside consultants to clean house. She said she was sorry. She admitted that when I handed her that folder, she thought I was just upset about not getting a promotion. She said she hadn't read it until Sunday night, and when she did, she stayed up all night going through every page. Then she slid the envelope across the table. It was a formal written apology. A huge check. And a letter inviting me back to help them build new HR policies, on my terms. Flexible hours. A director-level role. Full autonomy. I stared at the letter for a long time. I asked one question, is Dale still on payroll? She said, not anymore. But I wasn't done. After Donna left, I called Jess. I told her about the offer. She said it sounded good, but then asked, are you sure you want to go back there? I wasn't. So I made a plan. I contacted the other women, Tina, Jess, Alyssa, and a few others who'd come forward. I asked them if they'd want to do something bigger. Not for revenge, but to actually make a change. We decided to start our own consultancy. We'd work with companies who wanted to build real, safe workplaces. Not just fake HR policies. Real change. We called it Stonelight Strategies. A nod to truth and exposure. Within a week of launching our site, we got calls. Companies who saw what happened to Dale's company didn't want to be next. Some were sincere. Others were just scared of bad press. Either way, they were paying. Meanwhile, Dale? His LinkedIn disappeared. Rumors said he tried to apply at another firm and got laughed out of the interview when the hiring manager recognized him from the viral clip. No one wanted to be associated with him. He tried suing for defamation. Didn't go far. The internal investigation had turned up too much. People talked. A former HR director admitted under oath they were told to bury complaints if it's from anyone under 35. The company settled with 4 former employees. And Dale? He moved out of state. Tried starting a podcast about resilience. It never got past episode 2. Just when I thought it was over, something strange happened. I got an anonymous email. The subject line just said, "You only got half the truth." It came from a throwaway Gmail account. No name. But inside was a screenshot of an old internal email thread between Dale and a VP named Rick Nolan. Rick was quiet. Always kept his head down. Nobody really noticed him during meetings. But he'd been with the company since day one. According to this thread, he was the one who had told HR to suppress my complaint. And there was more. The emails showed that Dale had actually tried to fire me. Twice. But Rick blocked it, said it would draw too much attention and that keeping her isolated is safer than severance. They called me a noise risk. They were afraid I'd go public. So they planned to push me out slowly. Make my role irrelevant. Gaslight me until I quit on my own. And I almost did. That email lit a fire in me I didn't know I still had. I sent it to Donna. She didn't reply. Not right away. But the next day, Rick's name vanished from the company website. And then I got a call from a lawyer. Turns out there was an internal audit going on. The board was quietly investigating the executive team. Rick had some shady stock trades on the books, and now with this email surfacing, they were looking into a pattern of retaliation and cover-ups. He'd buried complaints before. Mine was just the latest. Now, there was a potential class action. Jess called me that night. She was fired up. "Tara," she said, "what if we don't let this fade away? What if we burn it to the ground?" I paused. Then I said, "Let's finish what we started." The next few weeks were chaos. More people came forward. Not just from our company, other companies Dale and Rick had worked at years ago. A pattern started to emerge. Dale wasn't just a bad boss. He had a long history of belittling women, bullying coworkers, and dodging accountability. Rick? He had quietly protected men like that for over a decade. Always in the background, always pulling strings. I didn't realize how deep it went until we got a call from a woman named Eliza Marsh. She used to be an engineer at our company, but she'd left before I started. I'd never met her. She told me she had filed a complaint years ago, but it vanished. No one followed up. She left without severance and was blackballed from several firms. Her story shook me. Because her complaint? It was against Rick. Not Dale. Turns out Rick had his own record. Sexist remarks. Inappropriate messages. A rumor about a late-night mentorship meeting gone wrong. All covered up. Dale was loud and sloppy, but Rick was quiet and calculating. Dale was a distraction. Rick was the real threat. That changed my whole perspective. I realized, all this time, I'd aimed my revenge at Dale. But Dale was just the face of something much worse. And if Rick hadn't slipped, he'd still be hiding in the background. So I made a choice. I took everything to the media. Not the local tech blogs. Not TikTok. I went to ProPublica. I shared every document. Every thread. Every ignored HR report. Eliza agreed to go on record. Jess helped build a timeline. Alyssa handed over receipts from Dale's messages. Tina found 2 more former employees willing to talk. The piece dropped 3 weeks later. Behind the laughs, how a culture of silence protected abusers at one of Pittsburgh's fastest-growing tech firms, the story exploded. We were no longer just some disgruntled employees. We were witnesses. Survivors. Whistleblowers. The fallout was brutal. The board issued an apology. Donna stepped down. 3 executives, including Rick, were subpoenaed. There was talk of criminal investigation related to falsified HR records. Turns out Rick had deleted dozens of complaints and altered timestamps to make it look like issues had been resolved. Even worse, he'd paid off one woman with company money and didn't report it. Embezzlement. He was arrested. Rick was actually arrested. In front of the building. Cameras rolling. The moment that video hit the internet, the company was finished. Clients pulled out. Contracts were cancelled. Lawsuits piled up. Within a month, they announced bankruptcy. A few people tried to blame us. Said we destroyed a good company. But most people saw the truth, the company was already rotten. We just pulled back the curtain. As for Dale? His podcast bombed. He tried to relaunch under a new name, but people kept finding him. The internet doesn't forget. Last I heard, he was working at a car dealership in Ohio. Someone sent me a picture of him wearing a cheap suit, standing by a used Toyota. The caption read, "Dale from sales says you can't cry in the bathroom here, but you can cry about your APR. Poetic justice." And me? I didn't go back. I turned down Donna's offer, even after she stepped down. I didn't want a promotion in a place I helped expose. I wanted something clean. Our new company, Stonelight Strategies, blew up. We started consulting with other firms. Teaching them how to build real accountability. Setting up third-party HR systems. Speaking at conferences. We hired Alyssa full-time. Tina took over our training program. Jess runs operations. We even hired Eliza. We made real money. But more than that, we made real change. And we didn't forget where we came from. Once a year, we host our own awards dinner. We don't give trophies for sales numbers or team spirit. We give them to people who stood up when it was hard. To people who spoke out. To people who listened. Last year, someone handed me a plaque. It said, "Most likely to set the whole damn house on fire, and then build something better." I smiled. For real this time. And when I looked around the room, no one laughed at me. They clapped. Because they knew. Because they were there, too. And because they'd never forget what happens when you humiliate the wrong woman and think she won't fight back.